Allow yourself to write whatever you need to write. What you need to write about has greater potential for emotional charge. It's the transference of the thoughts and feelings in our mind into language we can understand. I was going to say explorative, but I don't think that's the word. So we get a lot of comments and questions from people who are quite new to morning pages, and they say, well, what do you write about? Anything at all, anything that is in your mind that just needs to come out. And you won't know what that is. What I find is the pages will go through stages depending on what's going on in my life. Okay. So it might be an issue at work, or it might just be about work, because these are a very useful tool. You know, I've got quite a creative job. You know, I'm a content creator for a group of companies, and as is indicative, implied, implicit. I should know, shouldn't I? In the job title, there's a lot of creativity involved. So I will use my morning pages to explore certain things, and sometimes that will mean bullet points. You know, I don't like to waste space, so I'll fill that in. If it just fills up one side of the page, then I'll use the other side of the page as a little reminder or to draw attention to what I've just written. And everybody's pages are going to be different. They're going to be unique. And I think the thing is I said in a recent video, that it's all about relinquishing control. That's letting yourself go, or learning the rules that have been drilled into us about certain things. Keeping, handwritings neat and stuff like that. Doesn't have to be the case at all. What you write about is what you need to write about. What you want to write about would indicate a certain level of control, I think. And what you need to write about can perhaps be a little sharper edged. What you would consciously choose to write about would be conscious journaling. And it says, I covered in the video about stream of consciousness versus consciousness. What you would choose to write about is a conscious choice. What you need to write about is going to be more raw and perhaps come out without you realizing. I am sometimes surprised what appears on the page in front of me. And that is why morning pages can be a journey of discovery. But what you need to write about has greater potential for emotional charge. And that's where I think I'm going to reiterate, be careful, but allow yourself to write whatever you need to write, because that's what it's all about. This kind of writing, these morning pages, are probably the one area of life where we really can totally let go. We can write whatever we need, whatever we want to write about anybody we want to write about, or any situation or anything, and there's going to be no comeback. You go and say something to someone, there might be trouble. Or maybe the morning pages might inspire you, embolden you to go and say something to someone. That person you've been longing to talk to or connect with, or, don't go starting any arguments. Especially not, after watching this video, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to say such and such to such and such. I'm not advising you to do that. Just a reminder at this point to check out the channel memberships. I don't like putting too many ads in the videos, and one way to support the channel is to take out a membership. You can get members-only, ad-free videos. What I tend to write mostly, the issues that crop up are family, work, relationships, what I would like to achieve. And it's okay for those things to be quite repetitive. That's what I find. They can be quite repetitive for, say, a week or a couple of weeks. And then because our lives change, what I'm writing about, and probably what you write about, will change also. Unless perhaps you've been through significant trauma. Say you've lost a loved one, and that is something you need to come to terms with, or you just want to reflect on, remember them, that's okay too. It's okay if it's repetitive and the same. It's just it's the transference of the thoughts in our head, the processing of the thoughts and feelings in our mind into language we can understand. That's what you're going to write in your morning pages. You might want to, for example, tell someone how you feel about them. So this is an exercise I might give you, actually, if you want to choose to accept it, as they would say on Mission Impossible. I don't think it's impossible, but you might find it more of a challenge than you might think. So this is an exercise I used to do with the Royal Literary Fund in workshops, actually. And it was often surprising to me who people would choose. Choose someone from your life. Now, this can be a relative, a significant person from culture, from history. Doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's still alive. And you just write to them and tell them, make sure it's positive. So this is something I would say as well. Make it a positive person and tell them what influence they had on your life and what you remember of them. I was doing some workshops in a place called Leominster, which is a little village in England. I was doing these workshops a couple of years ago, and one person said she couldn't think of anybody. I was quite a bit dumbstruck that she couldn't think of anybody. And then she remembered her grandmother. Now, I can't remember the story, but give yourself a moment. If you want to, you could spend time and write a list. Say 5 or 6 people you might want to write to. This is what you're doing. You're not writing about them, you're writing to them. You're talking to them through words on the page. And this is the thing, you can say anything you want. And if you enjoy it, if you really get something out of it and you think it's a nice thing and they're around, send it to them or give it to them in physically in the post, or by hand, not an email. This can be a very rewarding, emotionally exploratory. I was going to say explorative, but I don't think that's the word. It can be emotionally rewarding, emotionally charged, and take you somewhere you want to be. Don't forget to check out the merch, mugs, stickers available on there. And the other thing is some immersive videos to help you get into that meditative state. I wrote to an English teacher I once had. I had a few good English teachers when I was at school. I had a really horrible one as well. She's mentioned in another video. 2 great English teachers I had. Mrs. Manuel, who's now, I think she's kind of retired, but she's also an actor. She appeared in, ladies and gentlemen, Game of Thrones. She killed someone. I haven't watched Game of Thrones, but I know she cut somebody's throat. She was an assassin. And the second English teacher, and this was the person I wrote to, was a guy called Mr. Turner. And Mr. Turner would, when I was at school, we were doing A-levels. I wasn't doing A-levels, O-levels. And there was like these books you had to do. So I remember we did with him The Long and the Short and the Tall, The Crucible. I think there were others, but they're the 2 I remember. But instead of making us self-conscious, spotty kids read out the books, which was kind of the way the teachers did it, he'd perform. He'd read them out to us and he'd perform. My God, did he bring them to life? Steinbeck, Of Mice and Men. Oh my God. He was brilliant. He was brilliant. You know, when it's coming to the crunch with Lenny, he was a great teacher. I don't know if he's still around. I did get the last known address for him and wrote a letter and sent it. I don't know if he ever got it. I would like to think he did, but I just told him, because since being in his English class, I went on to, I became a writer, I had novels published, and I think in whatever little way he contributed to that, putting me on that path. And also Mrs. Manuel as well. I remember we would be in a class and we did a poem one time, and she would get different members of the class to come up with different lines. And I just remember something about the Shakespeare pub in Birmingham, which was a mod hangout, and her getting frustrated with people who just couldn't think of anything. But yeah, think of someone significant in your life and write to them. And you can do this in your morning pages. Let it all come out onto the page, and then maybe you can finesse it a little bit into a letter if it's something you are able to and want to share with them.